The Ugly Duckling. Once there was a duck who had just hatched a brood of ducklings. One of them had been longer coming out of the shell than the others, and when it did break out, it was very ugly. The ugly duckling could swim well, so he's not a young turkey, as the old duck suggested he might be. But he was big and clumsy, and a dull grey colour instead of the fluffy yellow that the other ducklings were. The whole farmyard laughed at him. The ducks pecked him, the geese hissed at him, and the girl who fed them drove him away with a stick. The poor duckling flew over the fence and joined some wild ducks who live in the moor. "You are very ugly," said the wild ducks, "but that does not matter." After he had been on the moor 2 days, he had made friends with some wild geese, and felt happy at last. But then, pop, pop, went a gun, and the geese all flew away. The poor duckling was so frightened that he hid himself. When all was quiet again, he came out and ran over the moor until he reached the cottage. He crept in and stayed there all night. A woman, a cat, and a hen lived in this cottage. The old woman let the duckling live in her house, hoping that it might lay eggs. One day the duckling said sadly, "It's dull here. I like to swim and dive in the water." "What a silly idea," answered the hen. "You don't understand me," said the duckling. "I think I must go into the world again." "Very well," said the hen. So the duckling set off on his own. Near the cottage he found some water, where he could swim and dive. One evening, a beautiful flock of birds came out over the bushes. They curved their graceful necks, and their feathers were beautiful white. The duckling felt quite strange as he watched them fly up in the air. He stretched out his neck towards them and uttered a cry. He loved the white birds and wanted to be with them. Sadly, he watched them fly away. Eventually, winter came and froze the water quite hard. The duckling lived alone, and he was cold and hungry. One day, the spring came out at last, and the ugly duckling felt that his wings had grown strong. He flapped his wings and soared into the sky. At last he saw a beautiful garden, and he landed near a fine piece of water. On the water he saw 2 swans swimming. He joined them, and as he got close he bowed his head. But what did he see in the water? Not a grey ugly duckling, but a beautiful swan. That was why he looked different. He too was a swan. The other swans greeted him, and he knew that he would now have friends to love him. He ruffled his feathers and curved his neck and said to himself, "I never knew what a good life was coming to me when I thought I was an ugly duckling." The end.